Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something I've learned from watching men my whole life, including myself. Men don't always know how to express love the way women want it expressed, but when a man is serious, when he knows you matter, his words change. His language shifts, his tone settles. And there are three words that tell you everything you need to know about whether he wants to lose you or not. You see, a man can enjoy your company, he can like how you look, he can even spend time with you and still not be serious. Men are very good at being comfortable without being committed. But when a man reaches the point where the idea of losing you bothers him, when the thought of you walking away creates pressure in his chest, that's when his words stop being casual and start being intentional. Those three words don't come from fear, they come from value. A man only protects what he values. He only reassures what he doesn't want taken away. And when he says those words, what he's really saying is, you matter enough for me to speak up. Men don't speak up unless something is on the line. Silence is easy. Effort is not. When a man doesn't want to lose you, he doesn't leave you guessing. He checks in. He clarifies. He explains himself without being asked. Not because you demanded it, but because he cares about how you feel. Men avoid emotional conversations unless they're invested. So when he leans into them, that's a sign. When he chooses words that calm you instead of confuse you, that's another sign. Ladies and gentlemen, let me slow this thing down for a moment because this right here is important. We talk a lot about actions, and yes, actions matter, but words are the doorway to intention. A man's words tell you what stage he is in emotionally, even when he doesn't realize he's revealing it. Men are very careful with words when they don't want responsibility. Silence, jokes, vague answers, that's a man keeping his options open. But when a man starts choosing his words carefully, when he becomes intentional with what he says to you, that's not by accident. That's because something has shifted inside him. You see, men don't like emotional pressure unless the reward is worth it. If a man is willing to step into emotional territory with you, it's because he's afraid of losing what you bring to his life. And that fear isn't weakness. That fear is awareness. It means he finally understands your value. Until a man values you, he's relaxed. He's casual. He's unconcerned. He assumes you'll be there whenever he feels like showing up. But the moment he realizes that you are not guaranteed, his words change. A man who doesn't want to lose you starts communicating reassurance. He starts saying things that settle your spirit. He doesn't want you confused, because confusion creates distance, and distance creates loss. Men are very logical creatures. When they know the outcome they want, they adjust their behavior to protect it. So if he wants to keep you, his words will begin to protect the connection. Pay attention to how a man speaks when he's serious. He stops minimizing your feelings. He stops brushing things off. He stops acting like you're doing too much. Instead, he starts explaining himself. And let me tell you something about men. Explaining takes effort. Men don't explain themselves unless they care how they're perceived. If he's explaining, it's because your opinion matters to him. And a woman's opinion only matters to a man when he's emotionally invested. A man who doesn't want to lose you also becomes mindful of timing. He understands that delayed responses, mixed signals, and disappearing acts create insecurity. So he adjusts, not because you forced him, not because you begged him, but because he doesn't want the risk of you pulling away. Men don't move like this. For women, they are willing to lose. They just don't. They let those women walk. They shrug and say, it is what it is. But when he can't afford that loss, you'll hear it in his voice and see it in his language. Now listen closely, because this part matters. When a man starts using words that include accountability, that's a sign of seriousness. He says things like he'll do better, he'll fix it, he understands. Those aren't empty phrases when they come with consistency. Those words mean he recognizes that his behavior has consequences. Men don't accept consequences unless they care about the outcome. And ladies, don't confuse charm with commitment. A smooth talker can say beautiful things and still not be serious. But a man who is serious uses words that bring clarity, not excitement alone. He doesn't just make you feel good in the moment, he makes you feel secure over time. His words reduce anxiety instead of creating it. That's how you know the difference. A man who doesn't want to lose you also starts checking in emotionally. He asks how you're doing and actually listens to the answer. He remembers what you said hurt you. He avoids repeating behaviors that push you away. That's not coincidence. That's intentional language guiding intentional behavior. You see, men are wired to protect what they value. And protection doesn't always look like fighting or providing. Sometimes protection looks like reassurance. Sometimes it looks like saying the right thing at the right time. Sometimes it looks like choosing honesty over convenience. When a man starts doing that, he's telling you without telling you that you matter. And here's the truth nobody likes to say out loud. A man will only fear losing you when he knows you can walk away. Confidence, self-respect, and boundaries make your presence valuable. When you carry yourself like you're not desperate to be chosen, men pay attention. And when they pay attention, their words shift from casual to careful. So when a man says those three words, understand what's behind them. It's not just affection, it's recognition. Recognition that you bring peace, value, and stability into his life. Recognition that losing you would create a gap he can't easily replace. And when a man reaches that realization, his words will always tell on him long before his actions fully catch up. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something about men and fear, because this is where a lot of people get it wrong. Men are not afraid of commitment the way people think. Men are afraid of committing to the wrong situation. They are afraid of losing freedom for something that doesn't add value to their life. But when a man realizes that you are not a burden, not drama, not confusion, but peace, everything changes. And when that change happens, it shows up first in his words. A man who doesn't want to lose you begins to communicate with intention. His words stop being random and start having direction. He's no longer just talking to pass time or fill silence. He's talking to maintain connection. Men don't maintain what they don't care about. If he's choosing his words carefully, it's because he's choosing you carefully. That level of awareness doesn't come early. It comes when he recognizes that your presence in his life actually improves it. You have to understand this about men. They measure value by impact. How you make them feel when they're with you matters. How you influence their peace matters. When a man sees that life is better with you than without you, the idea of losing you becomes uncomfortable, and discomfort forces men to speak up. Silence is safe when there's nothing to lose. But when there's something at stake, words become tools of protection. A man who doesn't want to lose you starts reassuring without being prompted. He doesn't wait for you to question him. He doesn't wait for conflict. He anticipates your concerns and addresses them. That anticipation is a sign of emotional maturity and emotional investment. Men don't anticipate the feelings of women they are casual about. They react to those women. They anticipate the feelings of women they are serious about. Watch how his language shifts during difficult moments. When a man is not serious, arguments turn into exits. He goes quiet, he avoids, he shuts down. But when he doesn't want to lose you, his words seek resolution instead of escape. He may not say everything perfectly, but he stays in the conversation. Staying is a big deal for men. Staying means he's willing to be uncomfortable to keep you. And let me be very clear here, words alone are not enough, but the right words always come before the right actions. Language is the blueprint for behavior. When a man starts saying things that reflect responsibility, it's because his mindset is changing. He's no longer thinking about what's easiest for him. He's thinking about what protects the relationship. A man who doesn't want to lose you also becomes careful with promises. He stops over-promising and under-delivering. Instead, he chooses honesty. He would rather tell you the truth and risk discomfort than lie and risk losing you. That shift matters. Men lie when they don't care about the long-term outcome. They tell the truth when the future matters. You'll also notice that his words start including you naturally, not forced. Not dramatic, just natural inclusion. He talks about plans, decisions, and situations with we instead of I. That's not something men fake for long. Language like that reflects internal alignment. He's already made space for you in his life mentally, and his words are simply catching up. Another important sign is how he speaks about you to others. A man who doesn't want to lose you protects your image when you're not around. He doesn't joke at your expense. He doesn't downplay your importance. He speaks with respect because respect is part of protection. Men don't disrespect what they fear losing. And ladies, listen to how a man speaks when he thinks you might walk away. That's when the truth shows up. When he senses distance, his words become clearer, not vaguer. He reassures instead of retreating. He explains instead of disappearing. That response tells you everything you need to know about where you stand. Here's the reality. A man who doesn't want to lose you knows that women leave emotionally before they leave physically. So when he values you, he pays attention to emotional cues. He listens for silence. He notices changes in tone. And when he notices, he speaks up. That's not manipulation, that's care. At the end of the day, men are simple in this way. They fight to keep what they believe they cannot replace. When a man believes your presence is rare, your value is high, and your absence would be painful, his words will reflect that fear of loss. Not in panic, not in desperation, but in consistency, reassurance, and clarity. And if you listen closely, you'll always hear the truth in how a man chooses to speak when he's serious about keeping you in his life. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you about consistency, because this is where real feelings separate themselves from temporary interest. Anybody can say the right thing once. Anybody can sound good on a good day. But a man who doesn't want to lose you shows up the same way emotionally over time, and that consistency always reveals itself through his words before it fully settles into his actions. Men don't wake up one day and magically become consistent. Consistency comes from fear of loss and respect for value. When a man is unsure about you, his words fluctuate. One day he's warm, the next day he's distant. One moment he's attentive, the next he's unavailable. That inconsistency isn't confusion, it's a lack of emotional investment. But when a man becomes serious, his language stabilizes. He doesn't leave you guessing where you stand. He doesn't keep you in emotional suspense. Because suspense creates insecurity, and insecurity pushes people away. A man who doesn't want to lose you will never risk pushing you away unnecessarily. You see, men value control. They like to feel like they understand what's happening in their world. And when you become important to him, you become part of that world he wants to keep stable. So his words start reflecting reassurance. He checks in, he clarifies, he follows up. Not because you demanded it, but because emotional consistency feels safer than emotional chaos when something matters. Pay attention to how he speaks when life gets stressful. Stress reveals priorities. When a man isn't serious, stress becomes an excuse to disappear. He goes quiet. He says he's busy. He emotionally clocks out. But when he doesn't want to lose you, stress doesn't erase you from his communication. He may not have long conversations, but he keeps the connection alive. A simple message. A quick check-in. A reminder that you still matter even when life is heavy. Men don't do that for women. They're okay with losing. A man who is emotionally consistent also becomes predictable in a good way. You know how he'll respond. You know where he stands. You don't feel like you're walking on eggshells or waiting for the other shoe to drop. His words don't spike your anxiety. They lower it. That's one of the biggest signs of seriousness. Peace is not boring. Peace is security. And men don't offer security unless they plan to stay. Another thing you'll notice is that his tone changes when he talks to you. There's patience there. Even when he's frustrated, he doesn't speak recklessly, because reckless words create damage, and damage risks loss. Men who don't care will say whatever comes to mind. Men who care pause. They choose their words. That pause is not weakness, it's intention. Let's talk about reassurance for a moment. A man who doesn't want to lose you understands that reassurance isn't about repeating compliments. It's about emotional presence. He reassures you by being clear, by being honest, by being steady. He doesn't leave important conversations unfinished. He doesn't avoid topics that matter to you. Avoidance is easy when the outcome doesn't matter. Engagement is what happens when it does. And ladies, consistency also shows up in how a man responds to your vulnerability. When you open up, when you express concern, when you share fear, a man who doesn't want to lose you doesn't dismiss it. He may not fully understand it, but he respects it. He doesn't tell you you're overreacting. He doesn't minimize your feelings, because minimizing your feelings creates emotional distance, and emotional distance leads to loss. A consistent man also owns his mistakes verbally. He doesn't pretend nothing happened. He doesn't rewrite the story. He says the words that acknowledge impact, not just intention. That matters. Men don't apologize sincerely unless they fear the consequences of not doing so. And the consequence he fears most is losing you. You'll also notice that his words don't change depending on who's around. He speaks to you the same way in private as he does in public. That alignment is rare. That alignment shows respect. Men compartmentalize when they're not serious. They present different versions of themselves. But when a man doesn't want to lose you, he becomes emotionally aligned. His words stay steady across situations. Consistency also means he doesn't weaponize silence. Silence is one of the most common tools men use when they're indifferent. But when he cares, silence feels dangerous. Silence creates space for doubt, and doubt creates exits. So he communicates even when it's uncomfortable, because losing you would be more uncomfortable than having the conversation. Here's something important to understand. Emotional consistency is exhausting for men who aren't invested. It takes effort. It takes awareness. It takes restraint. That's why it's such a powerful sign. If he's doing it, it's because you're worth it to him. Men don't sustain effort where there's no future. So when a man says those 3 words that reassure you, and he says them consistently, believe what you're hearing. Believe the pattern, not just the moment. Because a man who doesn't want to lose you will always choose words that keep you grounded, connected, and secure. And when you feel that steadiness in his communication, you're not imagining it. You're witnessing a man who knows your absence would leave a space he's not willing to live with. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you about priority, because this is the final line between a man who enjoys you and a man who is afraid to lose you. Priority is not about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. Priority is revealed in small, repeated choices, and those choices are almost always communicated through words before they are proven through actions. When a man doesn't want to lose you, his language tells you exactly where you stand in his life. A man who sees you as a priority doesn't make you compete with confusion. He doesn't leave you wondering when you'll hear from him again. His words create structure instead of chaos. He lets you know what's going on. He gives context. He understands that uncertainty makes people emotionally withdraw, and he doesn't want that distance between you and him. Men who are casual don't care about emotional distance. Men who are serious work to close it. When a man prioritizes you, he communicates availability even when he's busy. Notice I didn't say he's always available. I said he communicates availability. There's a difference. Life happens. Work happens. Stress happens. But a man who doesn't want to lose you makes sure his words remind you that you're still important, even when his time is limited. He doesn't disappear and explain later. He explains first. That's respect. Pay close attention to how a man talks about his time. A man who is not serious will tell you what he can't do. A man who is serious will tell you what he can do. His words focus on solutions instead of excuses. He doesn't shut the door. He adjusts the schedule. Men don't adjust for women they're willing to lose. They only adjust for what they value. Another sign of priority is how he speaks when decisions are involved. A man who doesn't want to lose you considers your feelings before he moves. He doesn't inform you after the fact. He includes you in the process. That inclusion shows respect and foresight. Men don't include women in decisions unless they see them as part of their future. Language like, let me check with you, or what do you think, may sound small, but it reveals a lot. You'll also notice that a man who prioritizes you uses words that protect the relationship from outside interference. He sets boundaries with other people. He doesn't entertain situations that could make you uncomfortable. And if something does cross a line, he addresses it clearly. Men don't guard relationships they don't intend to keep. Protection is effort, and effort follows value. A man who doesn't want to lose you is also careful with jokes and sarcasm. He understands that words can either build connection or slowly erode it. He doesn't tease you in ways that undermine your confidence. He doesn't speak carelessly about sensitive topics. That level of awareness is not accidental. It's the result of caring about how his words land, not just how they sound. Another important thing to watch is how he talks during conflict. When a man sees you as a priority, arguments don't become power struggles. His words aim for resolution. not dominance. He wants peace more than he wants to be right. Men who are not serious want to win. Men who are serious want to keep you. And those two goals produce very different conversations. A man who prioritizes you also doesn't make you feel like an afterthought. He doesn't call only when it's convenient. He doesn't reach out only when he needs something. His words show intention. He checks in without an agenda. He communicates because connection matters to him, not because he's bored or lonely. You'll hear it in how he talks about the future. Not in exaggerated promises, but in realistic plans. He speaks with certainty, not hesitation. He doesn't say maybe when he means someday. His words reflect stability. Men don't build verbal futures with women they're unsure about. They keep things vague to protect themselves from accountability. And ladies, understand this: when you are a priority, you don't have to chase clarity. Clarity comes to you through his communication. You don't have to decode messages or read between lines. His words are direct, steady, and reassuring. That's not because he's perfect. It's because losing you would cost him something he's not willing to give up. At the deepest level, a man who doesn't want to lose you recognizes that presence is a privilege. He knows that love, support, and peace are not guaranteed. And because he knows that his words reflect gratitude, care, and intention, he speaks in ways that keep the door open, the connection strong, and the relationship protected, because in his mind, you are no longer optional.